What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Leo's Nerd Talk, and today we're going to be talking about the original Alien. Hi, my name is Leo, and if you guys like talking about movies, TV shows, video game related, or just anything nerdy, you have come to the right place. And like I said, we're talking about Alien, so without further ado, let's get into the review. Now, with Alien Romulus just a month away, one of my most anticipated movies of the rest of the year, I wanted to go back and rewatch all the Alien movies, do a review and do a ranking by the time Alien Romulus comes out. And of course, we are here at the 1979, I believe, Alien. But before I get started, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button and share your thoughts about the Alien franchise in the comment section down below. Are you guys excited for Alien Romulus? Do you think we should continue on this franchise? Leave it alone. What are you guys' thoughts? I'd love to hear everything on the comment section down below. But without taking much more of your time, let's go ahead and get into the pros. And the pros for me is this movie feels just like one of those masterpieces, one of those sci-fi horror masterpieces, where it's so suspenseful. You are constantly at the edge of your seat wondering when something is going to happen. It does this very deliberate thing where the pacing is kind of slow in a way for a certain reason, where they're traveling through space, they hear a signal, they slowly get to this planet, they come out with their suits, they're slowly going to the structure that they find, they realize it's an alien ship, and then we get one of our characters that gets down deep into the alien ship and finds the alien eggs. And you're, just if, as an audience, you're also wondering, if you've never seen the movie, like, what are these things in here? And that it opens up, and it's like this really gross, practical kind of little egg that just opens up, and the camera pans over and you're looking at it, and you're kind of like, even if you already know what's gonna happen, you're kind of like backing off from the screen. You're like, oh, and then boom, the facehugger comes up, and the iconic scene of the facehugger coming in, and they're coming back to the ship, and now the panic starts to arise. Do they let them in? Do they try to save their crewmate? Do they leave them outside because of quarantine and they don't want to be infected, or they want to risk the rest of the crew being killed off by these aliens? And so I just love how it builds up that paranoia. It takes its time to get to that point where the facehugger first appears, and you're just wondering the entire time when something is going to go down, when something is going to happen. And once the facehugger is on board, now you're just sitting and waiting again, and you're just wondering what is this facehugger doing? What's going to happen with this crewmate that has the facehugger on his face? And I think it does a very great job, like I said, just building that paranoia of the unknown, not knowing what you should do. And I think the directing is beautiful. I think the shots are done very, very well. A lot of the practical effects are done good. The facehugger alien looks extremely good and like slimy, and I just love the way the alien looks. And then even once you get to the moment where the facehugger's off the guy's face and he awakes again, and you're like, oh, cool, the facehugger's dead, all things is good. And then you get that iconic alien scene where the crewmate starts to squirm around. It looks like he's choking on his food at first, and then you get the little chest burster just and it just runs away. And like, that's one of the greatest practical effect horror movie moments of all time. I love the xenomorph look, and seeing the little baby xenomorph is so funny all the time, but I just love that scene and how it's just so shocking. I can only imagine people watching this movie for the first time ever back in 1979, seeing that chest bursting scene and just getting freaked the fuck out in the movie theaters. I can only imagine that. Like, I wish I was there to experience this movie in theaters, and especially moments like that with the chest burster. I think performances across the board are done very well, of course. Some more memorable than others. Of course, we have our main protagonist with Ripley. You don't realize that she's the main protagonist until about midway, when we have our ship leader, something happened with him. So you don't realize that Ripley's kind of like the main protagonist until midway, but she's a badass character throughout the entire time. She's always ready to take charge, always ready to lead people, always try to make decisions. Even when she doesn't know what the right call is, she makes a call, she sticks with it, and she runs with it. And that's what a badass leader does, and especially in moments like this. So I love Ripley as a character. I love Ripley as a final girl. She's one of the most badass final girls of all time in horror history. So I absolutely love performances across the board, but of course I love Ripley the most. And of course I love the design of the xenomorph. This is one of the of course, early designs of the xenomorph, just because there are kind of limitations when it comes to effects and stuff like that. It was basically a guy, a very tall dude in a xenomorph suit. It's a lot more humanistic than humanoid, I should say, than what we see in like later installments of the Alien franchise. But it's just a really tall dude in a xenomorph suit with these like gloves and the big xenomorph head and everything like that. So he stands tall, a little bit more humanoid, a little bit more like a human, versus when you see kind of in like Aliens and Beyond, they're a little bit more like crawling, animalistic and stuff like that. So even though there had the limitations of, you know, the effects and what they can do with the xenomorph design, I think it still lends to be very, very creepy, very cool, and having some pretty badass scary moments, especially when you get into the air duct and you have that one moment where he turns around and the alien just there, just I think that moment is freaking awesome. One of the best jump scares ever as well. So I thoroughly enjoy the xenomorph design. I think the xenomorph is one of the most creative alien designs out there. I think it is based off of like a artist's design from like Across Seas or something like that. I don't remember the name of the artist, but he does a bunch of like designs like this, and that's kind of where the xenomorph was kind of based off of to begin with. So I really enjoy what the xenomorph looks like, even in this movie where they're a little bit limited on what they can show. And I think that also lends to the kind of paranoia and the creep factor of the xenomorph as well, where they knew that if they showed the xenomorph in full light, it would look a little awkward, you know, just a tall man with a giant xenomorph head. So I think I like the utilization of minimizing the times you see the xenomorph, and when you see him, it's typically like a face shot or it's like in the dark, so you never see the full body. But once you do see the full body, it's still, you know, I think still looks very well. But I like the way they shot it, where a lot of the kills, you know, you see just like the little mouth coming out of his face, or you just see the head, or just a quick shot of the whole body, you know, about to kill someone. So it kind of feels very similar to like something with Jaws, where they had limitations on the shark, so they had to pick and choose how they use their shots with the shark. I feel like it's very similar in here, and I think that adds a lot to the suspense moments of picking and choosing when you see the xenomorph and how you see the xenomorph. And I even love the ending of this, where you think Ripley is safe, she has escaped, she blew up the ship, you think she's gonna make it to safety, someone's gonna pick her up, she is A-OK, and you find out that the xenomorph is on the escape pod with her, and you get this little final battle between the two that ends pretty quickly, but it's still pretty badass of her, you know, putting on the jumpsuit, and she's like singing to herself, excuse me, to calm herself down as she's just ready to open the chute and let the xenomorph out. But then the xenomorph gets stuck on a tie and it's about to get back in the ship, and just that whole ending moment is super intense. And I love how it kind of averts your expectations of her being safe. She finally escaped, and then it just flips it right on you, and she's back in danger just like that. I also like the implications or the implementation of Ash. You know, the entire time you see that he's like a little off, and he does a very good performance of like playing someone that's kind of emotionless, and you don't know why he's kind of a little off, and he just kind of does things that you feel like is just putting the crew in danger, and you find out that he's planning to put the crew in danger on purpose. And then you get the full big reveal where he's a robot, and no one on the crew knew that he was a robot, and you know that surprises you too, because he just seems like to be like this super strong person. You don't understand why until you get his head just ripped off, and you see all the robot parts coming out and everything like that. So that even adds to more of the paranoia. Like, okay, now we don't know what this alien in the ship is, but now we can't even trust some of our crewmates. And that just adds to that paranoia, and I think it does a very good job. Very similar to like something like John Carpenter's A Thing, where you don't know who to trust, you don't know who is keeping you safe, and it's just having that heightened paranoia the entire time. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the cons. And I have a few things here. A couple of the cons, some of the effects when it comes to like the robot or certain other you know moments with like the ship and everything like that, they look a little aged. You know, I'm not gonna knock it off too much. Like, I think the one that always kind of interests me the most is when you do get the reveal of Ash being a robot, and they're kind of sifting through his body, and it just looks like a bunch of like bubbles and lights, you know, just hanging out. Like, it doesn't seem like it was orchestrated to look like a robot. Like, it looks like they just threw a bunch of electrical parts in his torso, threw some white cream all over it, and There you go. That's a robot body. So it looks a little strange when you see it for the first time and stuff. It's still pretty cool regardless. I do like that whole scene where they have his head on the table and they're asking him the last few questions. But I do think just that little effect looks a little weird, and doesn't look as like a robot as you would expect typically. And something that always bugged me, and this is very small. Like, this is kind of someone that, like, this bugs people probably only if you're like really into like space travel and like astronaut stuff and things like that, where you would never smoke on on a ship, especially in a ship where you're just recycling air. So smoking all the time and recycling that smoke air is just extremely terrible. You're contaminating everything and you're risking a lot of stuff. I get the flamethrowers on there. I don't know how many rocket ships or spaceships when they go into space, International Space Station, have flamethrowers on there, but like, astronauts always say the number one thing that is the worst thing that could happen is a fire on a spaceship. So to have flamethrowers, it's kind of unrealistic, but I get this is a sci-fi movie. I get this is an alien movie. This is not supposed to be real life, but it's just things that in the back of my head I always think about. Every time I watch it, I'm like, you wouldn't be doing that. And lastly, while I do think I enjoy the deliberate slow pace at the beginning to kind of build up to that final time where you first see the xenomorph or first see any of the aliens, that slow pace is a little too slow at times, where you're just watching it, and especially when you watch the movie for a lot of times, or even if you're watching it for the first time, you might be wondering, when is something going to happen? And like I said, there's a lot of limitations when it comes to this movie, especially when it comes to the xenomorph and stuff like that, where a lot of the scenes is you're just watching these people walk around looking for where the xenomorph is or trying to figure out what to do. There's not a lot of action. That's kind of more, once you get into aliens, this is a lot more kind of a suspenseful thing, but at times it can get a little slow pace, and things can feel like they can be dragged out a little bit longer than it should be. But that is a very minute con on my end. But overall, let me know what you guys think about Alien. Also, let me know what you guys think about the entire Alien franchise in the comment section down below. Share your excitement for Alien Romulus. I love to hear all of you guys' thoughts down below. But again, if you guys like talking about movies, TV shows, or video game related, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I'll see you guys on the next review. Thank you.